Hey everyone, welcome back to Midlife Unfiltered. I'm Jenny from Midlife Clover community.
Hi, and I'm Alice from Prime Midlife. Good to have you back.
So, this episode came out of a bunch of conversation. We have been both having this lately where some get retrenched or their spouse does, and more people are asking the same questions. Is this happening more? Am I behind? Or what do I do actually in the first few weeks?
So today we are digging into all of that. We have got some numbers for you, and we are going to talk about the emotional side of things. And also, maybe, if you are in the situation right now, we will actually suggest some practical steps for the first 90 days and beyond.
Imagine this. It is a Tuesday morning. You walk into a meeting thinking it's another quarterly update. 15 minutes later, you are carrying a cupboard out of the office you have been working in for 20 years.
Actually, that happened to me when I worked with a company for less than 2 years. And I went to the office, and yes, I actually walked out with a box. And also, unfortunately, it's happening to more Singaporeans than many of us realize.
Right. In Q1 2026, the Ministry of Manpower recorded just under 3,900 retrenchments, up slightly from the previous quarter, but still within what they call pre-recessionary norms. Overall unemployment is low and stable, around 2%.
But here's the part that matters for our friends here specifically. The incident isn't evenly spread. In fact, it's highest among degree holders and highest also among workers aged 50 to 59. The 40 to 49 group is also affected, just slightly less.
So the more senior, more experienced we are, the more likely we are to be the one to let go. I've worked in media and business development for over 30 years. I've seen the entire industry change from print to digital to social media and now AI. Every wave creates opportunities, but every wave also leaves people wondering whether they are still relevant.
Yeah. So which feels completely backwards to the person living it, right? I mean, you spend decades becoming more valuable, and then you are the one on the list.
It is just like I did everything right and it still happened to me.
Mm. And the driver behind most of it isn't even caught casting in the way people assume. Nearly three-quarters of it is business restructuring. Companies reshaping around AI and digital change, not just trying to save money.
Which doesn't make it hurt less, but it's just changed the story you tell yourself. It's not I feel, it's the shape of the work change.
Exactly. Although there is an encouraging number in there too, because 6 months re-entry for retrenched residents improved to just over 60%. Even for the 50 to 59 group, over half are back in work within 6 months.
So it takes longer if you're older, but it's not the closed door people feared, not a dead end. And before we talk strategy, we have to talk about what actually happening inside someone when this hits. Because this doesn't just financial event. For most people, it's grief. It does happens to come with a financial problem attached.
That's exactly right. And there is a fairly predictable arc to it. First is shock, then anger or grief, then this anxious spiral around identity and future, and eventually gradual acceptance. I can say this out loud because I have been through this experience twice. The first time, I didn't even dare to tell my friends and family. I kept pretending that everything was fine or I was on leave because I felt embarrassed. And now looking back, I realized that the shame was much heavier than the retrenchment itself.
And for midlifers specifically, it's never just about the job. It tangled up with the mortgage, the kids' school fees, aging parents, and this quiet age-related self-doubt that whisper, am I too old to start again?
And that is another important point. This isn't about gender in the way people assume too. I mean, men often carry it more silently because usually we have this script says provide, don't waver. However, women often carry it with an added layer of guilt about their household. So I would say it's different flavors, but same weight for men and women.
So what actually helps? Because just stay positive is not an answer.
Absolutely. And in fact, it's the opposite. The actual advice that I would give is name the loss as real. It's not just a job, it's a loss of role, of routine, of status. And grieving that isn't a weakness, it's actually its norm.
And practically,
Well, I would suggest that separate our identity from our title early and on purpose and continue to keep our structure like our exercises, sleep, and a boundary amount of job search time. Because if you have unlimited job search time, just becomes unlimited rumination.
and don't do it alone. I think isolation is the silence multiplier here. Most people going through this feels like everyone around them is still employed and doesn't understand.
Which is precisely why peer support outperforms almost anything else in the research. Not because friends can fix it, but because being witnessed in it changes what it feels like to carry.
And if it is tipped past hard into something heavier, there is real support here in Singapore. The National Care Hotline 1-800-202-6868, Ceremony Mountains of Singapore 1-800-221-4444, Care Corner, Silver Ribbon, myline.sg, the Institute of Mental Health Helpline. And don't forget, if your former employer has an employee assistance program, is sometimes still accessible for a period after you left. So it's worth checking. None of this is a sign you are handling it badly. It's a sign you are taking it seriously.
And also, treat emotional recovery as part of the job of transition, not a distraction from it. So, once you have made room for the emotional reality, the next question is what do you actually do in the first 90 days?
Because I think people either freeze or they panic applying to 50 jobs in a week.
Both are understandable, but neither is strategic. The first move is unglamorous. Know your exact monthly burn rate. Housing, food, transport, insurance, children's education, any helper costs. Most people have never actually added it up.
Visibility reduce anxiety every time. Then protect a cash buffer if you can, 6 to 12 months if possible. Freeze non-essential spending and keep your critical illnesses and hospitalization covered. That's the one place not to cut corners.
Yeah, and there is a support available that many people may not realize they may qualify for. For example, the Skills Future Job Seeker Support Scheme provides up to $6,000 over 6 months for eligible Singaporean citizens and permanent residents who have been involuntarily retrenched or lost their jobs. If you meet the income and eligibility criteria and actively participate in job search activities, you may receive monthly payouts while looking for your next opportunity.
Many people also ask whether they can rely on their CPF. For most people under 55, ordinary account savings generally aren't available to fund day-to-day living expenses. So it's important to plan around the cash you have. And if possible, try to protect your MediSave and avoid drawing down retirement savings unless truly have no options available.
And also, another suggestion is talk to your bank about temporary mortgage relief. Could pause voluntary CPF top ups or investment contributions for now. And if it fits your situation, monetize something under use. For example, your spare room, a car, unused items.
And practically track every dollar for those first 3 months. One more thing worth checking, a lot of people forget to look at their former employer might actually owe them.
So stabilize the ground under your feet before you try to take a step forward on it.
Okay, ground stabilized. What's next?
Next, I would suggest is reclaiming what is already yours because most midlife professionals radically underestimate what they are sitting on.
This is the part I love, actually, because it's the opposite of the grief conversation. It's remembering your own worth.
Absolutely. So the skills that translate best for our friends here, for example, it could be your stakeholder management, influencing without formal authority. It could be your problem solving under ambiguity. It could be your regional and cross-cultural experience. How about governance and risk knowledge, or a project delivery, and the ability to build trust quickly with clients or partners?
In fact, none of that shows up on a job title, which is why the network matters more than the job board. There's a sequence that works. Write a quiet list of 30 to 50 people who have actually seen your work up close. Former bosses, clients, peers, vendors, not a mass LinkedIn blast. Write a short, specific message with a clear ask. I'm exploring this direction. Would you be open to 20 minutes? And where you can, offer something first, like an introduction, an article, a piece of insight.
And here's another suggestion as well. Sit down and write out every problem you have solved in your career, not just your job titles, not your responsibilities, the actual problems and what happened because you solved them. That list could become your pitch. It's what makes you valuable to a company. It could be a consultancy or a client who hires you directly. In a way, a job title never quite captures.
And most jobs at this stage don't come from a portal anyway. The majority come through referrals and warm introductions, not applications into a black box. So the network work isn't a nice to have, it's a mechanism.
And the emotional barrier here is bigger than the practical one. So reaching out feels like omitting something, and reframing that is half the work. You are not asking for charity. You are activating relationships you built by being good at what you do. You don't have to reconstruct your worth from nothing, and you don't have to do it alone either.
So we have stabilized, we have reclaimed, now rebuilt. And I don't think rebuilt here means find an identical job.
No, I don't think it's necessary so, and that's the mindset shift underneath everything in this research. We can try to moving from I need to find another full-time job exactly like the last one to I need to design a work life that gives me enough income and enough energy for the next 15 to 20 years.
Yes, I agree. And this could potentially open real pathway like fractional or interim roles, especially in finance, HR, operations, compliance, consulting on a project basis using deep domain knowledge, teaching, training, or facilitation, which skill future funded courses are actively creating demand for. Board or community roles once government's training is in place.
So the portfolio career is not even a downgrade, actually. It could
Yes.
be an upgrade in autonomy, even if the income arrives in a different shape. And there is real institutional support for the transition itself. For example, the Skills Future Career Transition Program, career conversion programs, and the mid-career training allowance of up to $3,000 a month for eligible full-time training, and also a mid-career credit top-up of $4,000.
Are there particular sectors where this is actually happening right now?
Well, maybe they can try to look into like healthcare, elder care, sustainability, cybersecurity, and education technology are all actively growing here. And if your background is operations, finance, HR, or even project management, those sectors need exactly what you already have because it is a translation and not reinvention.
And for people building that portfolio piece by piece, where do they actually find the work?
They actually can try to go for platforms like Upwork and LinkedIn Profiler for consulting style work, or maybe locally can try Gleans and Fast Jobs have both become real channels for mid-career professionals, monetizing their expertise on their own terms.
And if someone thinking even bigger, like starting something of their own,
Well, maybe they should know what IMDA and Enterprise Singapore, because both of them actually both run grants and mentorship programs for that path. Maybe it's not something that everyone at this stage usually think to check.
Because the honest truth is, most people don't redesign a work life alone in a spreadsheet. They do it in conversation with people slightly ahead of them on the same road. So if you're watching this and you're in the middle of it right now, I want to leave you with this question. What would your life look like if nothing changed in the next 5 years? Because sometimes the thing you didn't choose end up being the thing that pushes you towards something better than what you have.
Absolutely. And if any part of this landed for you, we would love to hear it in the comments. And if you want more conversations like this one, that's exactly what our communities exist for. See
See
you
you
next
next
week.